In the summer of 1969, Hollywood's Golden Hills harbored a darkness that would shatter America's innocence forever. What started as a hippie commune's twisted interpretation of Beatles lyrics would end in one of the most shocking murder sprees in criminal history. 7 people dead. 2 nights of terror. One man's delusions that sparked a killing spree meant to ignite a race war. This is the true story of Charles Manson and his deadly followers. But to understand how a failed musician became America's most notorious cult leader, we need to go back to where it all began, in the broken childhood of a boy named Charles Manson. November 12, 1934. Cincinnati, Ohio. Kathleen Maddox, just 16 years old, gives birth to a boy she names Charles. His father is absent, his mother troubled. From day one, rejection defines his world. Young Charles bounces between relatives and reform schools. By age 13, he's already committed his first armed robbery. The institutions meant to reform him only harden his anger against society. Prison becomes Manson's education. Behind bars, he studies Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. He learns to manipulate, to charm, to control. These skills will prove deadly. March 21, 1967. After spending half his life in institutions, 32-year-old Manson walks out of Terminal Island Federal Prison. He begs to stay inside, the only world he knows. They release him anyway. San Francisco, 1967. The Summer of Love. Manson arrives in Haight-Ashbury at the peak of the hippie movement. Here, among the flower children and dropouts, he finds his hunting ground. With a guitar and a manipulative charm, Manson begins gathering followers. Lost young women, runaways, society's castaways, they're drawn to this small man who speaks of love while preaching revolution. Mary Brunner becomes his first devotee. A librarian at UC Berkeley, lonely and searching for meaning. Manson moves in with her, then invites other women to join them. The family begins to form. Lynette Frum, nicknamed Squeaky. Patricia Krenwinkel. Susan Atkins. One by one, young women fall under Manson's spell. He strips away their identities, gives them new names, makes them dependent on him alone. The men come too. Charles Tex Watson, a former honor student from Texas. Bobby Beausoleil, an aspiring musician. They see Manson as a guru, a prophet, even Christ himself. Manson preaches his philosophy: society's rules don't apply to them. He doses them with LSD, breaks down their inhibitions, controls their reality. Group sex, communal living, complete submission to Charlie. By 1968, the family has grown to nearly 30 members. They travel in an old school bus painted black, moving between Los Angeles and the desert, surviving through theft and scavenging. Spahn Ranch becomes their base. An old movie set in the Santa Susana Mountains, run by elderly, nearly blind George Spahn. The family exchanges labor and female companionship for a place to stay. Here, isolated from the world, Manson's teachings grow darker. He speaks of Helter Skelter, his twisted interpretation of a Beatles song that he claims predicts an apocalyptic race war. According to Manson's delusion, blacks will rise up and kill whites, but won't know how to rule. The family will hide in the desert, then emerge to take control when the violence ends. But Manson grows impatient. Helter Skelter isn't starting fast enough. He decides the family must spark it themselves, by committing murders so shocking they'll be blamed on Black Panthers. Meanwhile, Manson pursues his music career. Through family member Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys, he meets record producer Terry Melcher. But Melcher rejects Manson's music. This rejection festers in Manson's mind. Melcher had lived at 10050 Cielo Drive in Benedict Canyon. Though he's moved out, the address remains fixed in Manson's thoughts. Someone will pay. July 1969. The family's criminal activities escalate. Gary Hinman, a music teacher and friend to the family, is tortured and murdered by Bobby Beausoleil on Manson's orders over a drug deal gone wrong. Beausoleil writes, "Political piggy," in Hinman's blood on the wall, trying to frame the Black Panthers. But he's arrested days later, found sleeping in Hinman's stolen car. Manson panics. With Beausoleil in custody, he fears the murder will be traced back to the family. He decides more killings are needed, to show Beausoleil isn't the real killer. August 8, 1969. Evening at Spahn Ranch. Manson gathers Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian. He gives them knives and a gun. Their mission: go to Cielo Drive and kill everyone. Make it witchy, Manson tells them. Leave a sign. Something to shock the world. The four pile into an old Ford and drive toward Beverly Hills as darkness falls. At 10:50 Cielo Drive lives actress Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant. Her husband, director Roman Polanski, is in Europe filming. She's not alone tonight, friends have gathered at the house. Jay Sebring, celebrity hairstylist and Tate's ex-boyfriend, is there. So are coffee heiress Abigail Folger and her boyfriend Wojciech Frykowski. They're having a quiet evening, unaware of the horror approaching. Just after midnight, Watson cuts the telephone wires. The killers climb over the gate. In the driveway, they encounter Stephen Parent, an 18-year-old visiting the property's caretaker. Watson shoots him 4 times. The killers enter through a window. Frykowski, asleep on the couch, wakes to Watson standing over him with a gun. "I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business," Watson announces. The victims are gathered in the living room, tied together with rope. They plead for their lives. Sharon Tate begs for her unborn child. But mercy isn't part of the plan. The killing begins. Sebring is shot and stabbed. Frykowski breaks free, fights desperately, stumbles outside where Watson catches him. Folger also runs but is caught on the lawn and stabbed 28 times. Sharon Tate is the last to die. 16 stab wounds. "Please, I want to have my baby," she cries. Susan Atkins later claims she told her, "Woman, I have no mercy for you." Before leaving, Atkins writes "pig" on the front door in Sharon Tate's blood. The killers flee, throwing their bloody clothes and weapons over a hillside, returning to Spahn Ranch before dawn. Saturday morning, August 9th. The bodies are discovered by the housekeeper. Police arrive to a scene of unimaginable carnage. 5 dead, including an unborn child. Los Angeles recoils in horror. But for Charles Manson, it isn't enough. The murders haven't sparked Helter Skelter. That very night, as police process the Cielo Drive crime scene, he prepares to strike again. August 9th, evening. Manson himself joins the second night's killing party. With Watson, Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, Steve Grogan, and Kasabian, they drive through Los Angeles looking for victims. Manson directs them to 3301 Waverly Drive in Los Feliz. Here live Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, a middle-class couple he'd once met briefly. Random victims for a seemingly random crime. Manson enters the house alone with Watson. They tie up Leno LaBianca with a leather thong. When Rosemary comes out of the bedroom, she too is bound. Manson then leaves, sending in the women to finish the job. The LaBiancas are killed with knives and a chrome-plated bayonet. Leno is stabbed 12 times, the word "war" carved into his stomach. A knife and fork are left protruding from his body. Rosemary LaBianca suffers 41 stab wounds. The killers raid the refrigerator, eat food, shower. They write messages in blood, "Death to pigs," "Rise," and misspelled, "Helter Skelter." August 10th. Los Angeles wakes to news of the LaBianca murders. Panic grips the city. Gun sales skyrocket. Celebrities hire bodyguards. No one knows who might be next. Initially, police don't connect the two crime scenes. Different neighborhoods, different types of victims. The Tate murders are thought to be drug-related, the LaBiancas perhaps a copycat crime. Back at Spawn Ranch, the family continues life as normal. They believe they've sparked the revolution. Manson speaks of more killings to come, of moving to the desert to wait out the race war. But cracks appear in the family's unity. Linda Kasabian, horrified by what she's witnessed, wants out. She'd served as lookout but couldn't participate in the killings. Her conscience haunts her. Days pass. The investigation stalls. Police chase false leads, drug dealers, satanic cults, robbery gone wrong. The Real killers remain free, hidden in plain sight at a dusty ranch. Then, a break. In an unrelated arrest, Susan Atkins is jailed for the Hinman murder. In custody, she can't resist bragging to cellmates about the Tate killings. Word reaches the authorities. Police also receive a tip from a motorcycle gang member. The bikers had heard Manson bragging about the murders. Suddenly, the impossible becomes clear: a hippie cult is responsible for terrorizing Los Angeles. October 1969. Police raid Spawn Ranch, initially for auto theft. They don't yet have enough evidence for murder charges, but they're closing in. The family scatters, some fleeing to the desert. November 1969. Susan Atkins' jailhouse confession provides the missing pieces. She details the murders, names the participants, reveals Manson's role as mastermind. The case breaks wide open. December 1, 1969. Arrest warrants are issued. Police launch a massive manhunt. One by one, family members are captured. The age of Aquarius has birthed its darkest nightmare. Charles Manson is found hiding in a cabinet under a bathroom sink at Barker Ranch in Death Valley. Squeaky from screams as police drag him away. The Messiah is just a small, scruffy criminal. Tex Watson fights extradition from Texas for 9 months. Patricia Krenwinkel is arrested in Alabama. Leslie Van Houten in California. The family's dark fellowship begins its journey through the justice system. Enter Vincent Bugliosi, the prosecutor assigned to the case. Meticulous, driven, brilliant. He faces an unprecedented challenge, proving Manson guilty of murders he didn't physically commit. The prosecution's theory: Manson used mind control and manipulation to turn his followers into killers. Though he wasn't present at Cielo Drive, he orchestrated everything. The puppeteer pulling deadly strings. Linda Kasabian becomes the prosecution's star witness. In exchange for immunity, she agrees to testify against her former family. Her detailed account will prove crucial to conviction. June 15, 1970. The trial begins. Manson enters with an X carved into his forehead, later changed to a swastika. His co-defendants follow suit. They're not seeking acquittal, they're performing for Charlie. The courtroom becomes Manson's stage. He leaps over the defense table at the judge. He holds up a newspaper declaring, "Nixon says Manson guilty." His followers disrupt proceedings daily. Outside, remaining family members hold vigil. They shave their heads, carve excess into their foreheads, kneel on the sidewalk. Squeaky from leads the devotion, proclaiming Charlie's innocence. The prosecution presents overwhelming evidence. Fingerprints, blood evidence, witness testimony. Kasabian describes the murders in chilling detail, breaking down as she recalls Tate's pleas for her baby. The defense struggles. Manson's attorney tries to argue his client's absence from the crime scenes means innocence. But Bugliosi methodically proves Manson's control over his followers' actions. Manson takes the stand briefly, outside the jury's presence. He rambles about society, the establishment, his philosophy. The judge rules his testimony inadmissible. Even in court, he tries to manipulate. The female defendants shock everyone by trying to take all blame, absolving Manson. They claim the murders were their idea, that Charlie knew nothing. The jury doesn't buy this obvious sacrifice. After 9 months of testimony, the longest trial in American history at that point, the jury deliberates. January 25, 1971, guilty on all counts. Manson, Atkins, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten face death. Tex Watson, tried separately, is also convicted and sentenced to death. Bobby Beausoleil receives life for the Hinman murder. The family's core killers are all behind bars. But in 1972, California temporarily abolishes the death penalty. All death sentences are commuted to life imprisonment. The Manson family killers will live, though their victims could not. The aftermath ripples through Hollywood and beyond. The carefree 60s are over. Doors are locked, security systems installed. The peace and love generation confronts its capacity for evil. Roman Polanski, devastated by his wife and unborn child's murder, struggles with survivor's guilt. He was supposed to be home that night but stayed in Europe. The what-ifs torment him forever. The victims' families endure decades of parole hearings. Doris Tate, Sharon's mother, becomes a victims' rights advocate, appearing at every hearing to ensure her daughter's killers stay imprisoned. Some family members eventually express remorse. Leslie Van Houten and Patricia Krenwinkel claim they've reformed. But parole is repeatedly denied. Their crimes are too heinous to forget. Others remain unrepentant. Susan Atkins, dying of brain cancer in 2009, is denied compassionate release. She dies in prison, having served 40 years for 2 nights of unspeakable violence. To understand how Manson controlled his followers, we must examine his methods. Love bombing, showering new recruits with affection and attention until they felt special, chosen, loved unconditionally. Then came isolation. Manson moved the family away from society, cut their ties to family and friends. At Spawn Ranch, he became their only source of truth, their only connection to meaning. Sleep deprivation, malnutrition, constant drug use, especially LSD. Manson would take smaller doses while giving followers larger amounts, maintaining control while they lost touch with reality. He exploited their vulnerabilities. Many followers came from broken homes, had histories of abuse or abandonment. Manson positioned himself as the father, lover, and savior they'd always sought. The group dynamics reinforced control. Peer pressure, fear of rejection, competition for Charlie's approval. Followers policed each other, reported doubts, proved loyalty through increasingly extreme acts. Manson used sex as a weapon. Orgies broke down inhibitions and boundaries. He dictated who slept with whom, used sex as reward and punishment, destroyed traditional relationships and jealousies. He created a new reality. Through repetition and isolation, his bizarre theories became truth. The Beatles were speaking to him. Helter Skelter was coming. The family was chosen to rule. Violence was gradually normalized. First, verbal aggression. Then property crimes. Small acts of violence. By the time murder was ordered, followers had been conditioned to obey without question. The power of the group was crucial. Alone, many followers might have resisted. Together, they reinforced each other's delusions, competed to prove devotion, lost individual moral compass. Manson understood psychological manipulation intuitively. His prison education in Dale Carnegie was twisted into dark purpose. He could read people's needs and fears, then exploit them mercilessly. Even his small stature worked to his advantage. Non-threatening physically, he seemed like a guru, not a danger. His followers protected him, fought for him, killed for him. The religious overlay was crucial. Manson quoted the Bible, positioned himself as Christ, promised salvation. For lost souls seeking meaning, he offered purpose, even if that purpose was murder. But cracks in his control existed. Some family members fled before the murders. Others, like Linda Kasabian, retained enough conscience to ultimately testify. The spell could be broken. Experts studying the case identify classic cult tactics: charismatic leadership, isolation, thought control, punishment of dissent, apocalyptic worldview, demand for absolute loyalty. Manson wrote the playbook. His influence extends beyond the family. The case sparked academic study of cult psychology, helping identify how ordinary people can be led to commit extraordinary evil through systematic manipulation. The Manson murders marked a cultural watershed. The 60s optimism died at Cielo Drive. If flower children could become killers, what did that say about the counterculture movement? Hollywood was forever changed. The open-door policy of many celebrities ended. Private security became standard. The casual mingling of stars and strangers was now seen as dangerous naivety. The case influenced American criminal justice. Prosecutors learned to pursue conspiracy charges against cult leaders. Laws were strengthened to hold those who order crimes accountable alongside those who commit them. Media coverage was unprecedented. The trial became a circus, spawning countless books, films, documentaries. Manson achieved the fame he'd always craved, though not as a rock star. Vincent Bugliosi's book, Helter, Skelter, became the best-selling true crime book ever. But critics argue it simplified complex motives, overemphasizing the race war theory while ignoring other factors. Alternative theories persist. Some see the murders as drug-related, others as revenge for music industry rejection. The truth likely combines multiple motives filtered through Manson's disturbed mind. Manson became a cultural icon of evil. His image appears on merchandise, in art, in music. Serial killers cite him as inspiration. He achieved immortality through infamy. The victims are often forgotten in the fascination with Manson. Sharon Tate reduced to a footnote in her own murder. The LaBiancas, Parent, Sebring, Folger, Frykowski, real people with hopes and dreams, erased. November 19, 2017. Charles Manson dies in prison at age 83. Some celebrate, others mourn the lost opportunity for understanding. He never showed genuine remorse for his crimes. The surviving killers remain imprisoned. Tex Watson became a born-again Christian. Leslie Van Houten earned college degrees. Patricia Krenwinkel works with prisoners. But redemption doesn't erase their crimes. Squeaky Fromm served 34 years for attempting to assassinate President Ford in 1975, still devoted to Manson. Other family members disappeared into obscurity, carrying their dark secret forever. The Spahn Ranch burned in a wildfire in 1970. Nature reclaimed the site of so much evil planning. But the psychic scar on American culture remains, a reminder of how wrong things can go. What can we learn from this American nightmare? First, the danger of charismatic leadership unchecked by critical thinking. When someone demands total devotion and isolation from others, run, don't walk, away. Second, the importance of maintaining individual identity and moral compass. The family members who resisted were those who retained some sense of self, some connection to their values despite the pressure. Finally, remember the victims, not just the killers. 8 innocent people, including an unborn child, died horribly. Their lives mattered more than their deaths. Their memory deserves more than true crime fascination. In understanding evil, we must never glorify it. The Manson family murders remain a cautionary tale, about the danger of lost souls finding the wrong shepherd, about how the search for meaning can lead to meaninglessness, about the thin line between enlightenment and madness. Stay questioning. Stay connected. Stay human.